Welcome. I'm Julie Bacon, and you're listening to the Mindset Coaching for Handlers podcast, a podcast for dog handlers who are on a mission to achieve big goals. Here I share lessons, insights, personal stories, and tools you can apply during your next show, trial, or test to help you strengthen your mental game and hopefully cue more consistently. Be sure to check out the show notes where you'll find details about the episodes, plus important links, including the link to the Dogged Planner and Workbook created just for handlers on a mission. So if you're ready to improve your competitive mindset, get out of your own way, and connect with your dog like never before, then it's time to get comfy, bring an open mind, and work your mindset. Hey there, and welcome back to the podcast. All right, every once in a while, you know that I get on kicks, right? There was the kick about being curious and really leaning into that. There's a kick about everything's energy. And I still believe both of those things, right? By the way, like everything gets down to energy, I still believe those things, okay? And I get on kicks about resilience and how I feel that it's like maybe the most important mindset skill we can have, etc. So I got a new kick. And it doesn't mean the other kicks go away. It actually means all of those kicks find a home because my new kick is that when we think about our mindset and we think about all the pieces and parts that we're working on, and sometimes it can feel really overwhelming or we feel, God forbid, and I'd never want you to feel this way, but it's easy to feel like broken or like there's so many things that we need to fix, and you get really overwhelmed, which is like the absolute opposite of what you want. I want you to feel like. I want you to feel like you have a mindset where you can just bite off piece by piece and work on sections. And that's the same way we train our dogs, right? We get overwhelmed sometimes because we come home from a weekend and we're like, oh my God, this dog needs to work on 7 things. And our list of our feedback in our journals is long. And we're like, oh my God. And we get ourselves all spun up. Okay. But at the end of the day, what we want for our dogs is the same as what we want for ourselves. And we want them to be well-rounded. Okay. So, right, we want our dogs to have not only skills where they can do the thing, but also the skill of being able to perform in distraction, for instance, or the skill of being able to travel and be a good travel dog, or the skill of even being able to stay in a hotel, right? And so when we look at our dogs, we think of I want you to be well-rounded. I want you to be exposed to all these different things. And I can see that you're not that good. Your skills are amazing, but you're not that good with distraction, or your skills are amazing, but you really hate performing after a long car ride, or whatever. I'm making things up, right? But the idea is we need to look at our mindsets through the lens of being well-rounded. And through that lens, then, it allows some of us to be better at maybe focusing, and other of us to be better at resilience, and other people to be better at bouncing back, and other people to be better at, pressure. Okay. So when we start to think about mindset, and you start to think about all of the aspects of mindset that maybe you want to improve upon for yourself, I want you to think about how you can be well-rounded. And yes, build on your strengths. I'm a firm believer of that. But I want you to think about it almost like, a puzzle piece analogy is easy, right? Because they're different pieces in the puzzle and we want to have them all, and maybe they won't all be equal, but you want to have, a goals piece or an emotional regulation piece, kind of the energy piece. You want to have good rituals. You want to have confidence, whatever those pieces are for you. And I really would urge you to kind of sit down and think for yourself what you think those pieces are. I'm going to give you a little bit of a framework today, but I really think this is personal. Because I think of how we define our own mindsets is really kind of personal. And then we can really see what it is that we want to work on. For instance, if you're easily triggered or distracted by drama that's going on in the arena, right, wherever you are, or you're easily, bothered by, other people showing up and watching, that might be something on your list, but people watching is not on my list, right? So I really, like I said, I'm going to give you kind of a framework, but I really would love it if you would sit down and personalize what are the different puzzle pieces for you. And through that lens, are there pieces that you're really good at and you give yourself a lot of credit for, and are there pieces you want to work on? And remember, working on everything all at once might not necessarily be the best approach for you, but you have to decide that for yourself, okay? Because a well-rounded mindset, at least the way I'm starting to think about it, I'm sort of developing this, if you will, is like having all the tools you need to handle various different situations, whether it's, again, pressure or nerves or mistakes, or just the hard truth about like the growing pains of it, right? And putting yourself into growth scenarios. You need all the tools. And the funny thing is you may not use a tool for a long time, but when you need it, you're going to need it to work, right? You're going to need to have some practice at it, some familiarity with it at least, so that you know which tool to grab for in those situations. So I really want to help you understand that neglecting any part of your mindset, can potentially, get in your way, right? And basically, why are we here? We're here to get out of our own way, okay? And so let's get into it. Okay, so in terms of like what I'm seeing right now is sort of the elements or the buckets, however you want to think about it, of a well-rounded mindset. Of course, I start with goals. That's like a cornerstone of kind of where I started, in getting the Q Coach up and going. And that was the initial part of even my coaching. And certainly the membership has a big goals aspect and the planner, blah, blah, blah. But goals are important because we want, a clear sense of like where we're going. But also we need to understand what our intention is with them, why we want them, and how they break down into achievable milestones or how we can track our progress against them. Okay. Goals are a map, right? And to just say, like, if you're sitting in Ohio and you say, my goal is to go to Mexico this year, but that's it. You don't know how you're getting there. You don't know if it's by car, bus, plane, donkey, like you have no idea. You don't know when, you don't know how much it's going to cost. You don't know anything other than that's my goal. It's probably going to slip, right? You're probably not going to get there this year. It's probably going to slip because you're missing pieces. And that's really all that goals are. When written down well and broken down, then you can kind of see the steps that you need to take to get to that goal, and they suddenly become a lot more doable because you've broken it down. It's not just this giant, like, go to Mexico. It's actually like a plan, and whether it moves by a month or two, how you're going to measure progress, and how you're going to make that progress to begin with, right? So goals are the first one. The second one I'm going to call like emotional regulation and handling pressure. Right? I could probably put like kind of energy into this too, because you've got to have some self-awareness about the energy you bring, the energy that you absorb, the energy that's around you, because knowing that is going to help you regulate your emotions, your response, your nervous system. And of course, having a handle on your nervous system is going to help you handle pressure. Okay? So we want to be able to manage our ring nerves, deal with pressure, and be able to control that, because I think that's one of the worst feelings, is when we feel helpless or we feel not in control when we come across moments of pressure or moments of ring nerves or just something's triggering us in the environment. Okay, so ring nerves, of course, calming those pre-run jitters, but also if they become sort of, I'm going to use the word chronic, not the perfect use of that word, but like if you always have ring nerves, or, you need to start to understand, well, what's triggering them? When are your ring nerves starting? Is it in all situations? Are you as nervous at weekend normal trials as you are when you travel or go to bigger events? Are all your ring nerves always the same? Like, really get into them and really dive into them. So that could be one of your puzzle pieces that you really want to work on. Alongside of that is handling pressure, right? So are you a person who can, regulate pressure and your response to pressure by doing breathing exercises and getting those calming techniques in there and really learning to focus? Or are you someone who's going to deal with pressure another way by like turning on music and tuning everybody out and refocusing, I should say, on your process goals and why you're there. You specifically are there, not why they're there, but why you're there. Because, national events are a great example. Some people are there because they, want to queue every time and end up in the finals and all of that. And other people are there to enjoy running with their dog and having a good time. Maybe it's the first time they've been, maybe it's the last time they're going to go with that senior dog, and they just want to enjoy it and soak it up. Right? So when we feel the pressure, and if we can turn back to the reasons that we are there and our own goals, our own process goals, that really helps. Because a lot of times, both pressure and ring nerves are us focusing on outcomes and not focusing on process goals, right? Because we don't have a lot of control with outcomes, so we get nervous about it, but we do have control over process goals. Okay? So make sure that you're turning that inward. Okay? The next one I want to talk about is rituals and routines. I just did a podcast not too long ago on the difference between rituals, routines, and even threw in some superstition. But having that pre-run ritual, that routine, that ritual that starts first thing in the morning, that includes your crate to gate, but kind of is expanded upon that. It calms your nerves. It signals to your nervous system that it's not only safe, but it's time to perform. It's grounding. It's grounding for your dogs as well. Could be visualization. It's breathing. It's, kind of when you get your dog out, how you settle your dog into the environment, into the energy of the environment. It's all of those things. And when we do that well, then it starts to become predictable for us, for our nervous system, for our dogs, for their nervous system. And it gets rid of a lot of decision fatigue because we don't have to wonder what we're going to do to get our dog ready. We already know, and it's practiced, and we defend it, and it's a really important part of our game. Okay? The next bucket for me is confidence and resilience, right? I have separate courses on each one of these in my online self-study courses, right? Because I think they're that important. I have one on resilience, one on confidence. Like the masterclass on confidence is if you don't know where to start with that one. But confidence is not just about feeling good. It's about trust. It's about trust. It's about trusting yourself. It's about trusting that you have the ability, trusting in your skills, trusting in your dog. Confidence is trust. Okay? And then resilience, right along with that, is knowing that you can recover. It's trusting, again, but in your ability to recover. So in a way, you have confidence in your resilience, okay? In addition to just having confidence, hopefully. But resilience is not just an innate trait, right? Neither is confidence. They're both skills. They are learned. They are learned through experience. They are learned through trial and error. They are learned in the fire. They are learned in the good times. But both of these things really need to be addressed. And so hopefully in these buckets, you are seeing kind of where you might need to focus more, right? Or you need to focus more on goals and intention. Or do you need to that's my new word. Focus more, that's what that is, on emotional regulation and handling pressure, or rituals, routines. Do they need a refresh or an update, or you need to, you really need to take it seriously? Or is it just confidence and resilience? Okay. So I absolutely reserve the right to rejigger these buckets at some point, or add or subtract to them. Well, I probably won't subtract, or probably add to them. But in terms of the elements or the buckets that make up a well-rounded mindset, that's kind of where I landed right now. Okay. So when we come back, I'm going to give you some action steps because we love a good bit of homework. If you love this podcast, you'll love the Q membership. Each month, we tackle topics like ring nerves, confidence, and mental toughness, breaking them down into bite-sized, actionable lessons. You'll also get a private Facebook group for support and access to all of my online courses. It's like having a mindset coach in your pocket. Ready to get started? Join us. The link is in the show notes, or head to theqcoach.com. Back to the episode. Okay, so let's think about, now that we have this perspective of developing a well-rounded mindset, and we have this analogy as trite as it might be, of a puzzle piece, or of these all being pieces of a puzzle that make up this well-rounded mindset. And now we have buckets of different areas that we can break apart. And like I said in the beginning, you might add your own pieces and parts to this, parts of it that you're struggling with that need attention or you really want to address. Okay. But then I really want you to like go to the journal, like write it down, and even go so far as writing down, like giving yourself a score, maybe even for each one of them, like a 1 to 10 thing, because later, like 6 months from now or a year from now, when you have committed to take action on these pieces of your mindset, I want you to be able to come back to that page in your journal and reevaluate and see how much you've moved the needle. Okay? Because I want you to be able to celebrate that, but it's a way of holding yourself accountable, is if you know that like in a year from now, I'm going to evaluate this, or, if I invest time and effort into this, or maybe even money, right? Maybe you do a class or a course or a coach or whatever, or membership or something like that. And you're like, okay, I want to know if my investment's going to pay off. I mean, that's very simple. But the honest thing you're going to have to ask yourself along the way is, am I also putting in the work, right? It's not osmosis, right? So you're going to have to put in the work. So figure out what your action is going to be in each of those areas. Have some measurable goals. How will you know you're feeling more confident? How will you know you're feeling more resilient? You'll know whether or not you wrote down your goals, okay? But like, will you know you're dealing with pressure better, or that you're able to emotionally regulate better, or you're better with just like the energy, the drama in a trial you don't get as caught up? Like, how will you know? And I think that's important when we first set the goal, is like, how do you know you'll be successful? How will you measure success? Because if you get to the end and you're like, meh, I mean, I guess I'm better, then you're not going to think that the effort was worth it, right? Because unfortunately for mindsets, there's no like title I can give you at the end. There's no big pretty ribbon. Hopefully you get a lot of other pretty ribbons along the way as a result of a stronger mindset. But I can't ever say that the mindset journey is complete, and I can't measure your progress for you, right? That's something you're going to have to do. Okay? All right. So make sure that whatever goals you're setting, whatever milestones you're using, they are measurable and you will know what success looks like. Okay? Make sure that as you're addressing each one of these, you kind of have an idea of what's the first action you're going to take. Like if you're working on regulating your emotions, for instance, or regulating your nervous system, like, okay, great. What's the action you're going to take? Are you going to insert like a breathing piece to your morning ritual? Are you going to get better at meditating on a regular basis? Like, what is that action step that you are going to commit to? So that you can work on each of them, right? So you want to, if we're working on each of these puzzle pieces, it's setting clear goals. It's developing rituals that work for you. It's working on your, emotional or energetic regulation. It's building resilience consciously, and it's working on your confidence very consciously. Okay. So journaling, taking courses, seeing how that fits in, measuring along the way, being really honest about the effort you're putting in and the results that you're getting, and if that needs to be tweaked or how you need to look at that. Okay. So I want you to think about it in these terms, because when we think about training a dog, we don't just think about like the skills that they have, right? I mean, I'll be honest. I used to just think about like, oh, if my dog has the skills, I can take him on the road. Well, but what if they can't handle distractions? What if they're terrible in the hotel and it stresses everybody out and everybody wakes up bleary-eyed the next day, There's so much else that goes into it. I mean, you get the idea, right? What about the dog that won't potty away from home? I had that once. It was a nightmare, So there's so much else that goes into having a well-rounded, confident, competitive dog. So why doesn't it make sense that we need to be well-rounded in our own mindsets? Okay. So when you shift to this perspective, now I think it becomes almost a little easier, because you can break it off in pieces or puzzle pieces and start to work on each piece in order to get to the total. And it also means, on the flip side, that even if you're not feeling very resilient today, your goals are on point, right? There's another aspect of your mindset that you are killing it. You are on fire. You are the best, right? It's because we're not everything all the time, but we are some of the things all of the time. Okay. So I really want you to think about that. There's all kinds of resources. Get a journal, do the planner stuff. There's just too many resources out there for you not to take action, right? There's free resources, there's paid resources, and everything in between. You can do this. If you commit to it, it will get better. Okay. So for my part of this, I think that next month, I'm probably going to make this the membership thing. This episode is going up in May, so it'll be probably June, but I just think that it's too juicy not to. So maybe the membership is your jam. Maybe that's what this is about. So think about it. That's your homework. Go break it down. Go figure out what your mindset puzzle piece or your, ideal, well-rounded mindset picture looks like, and let me know how it's going. Okay? Please, love the feedback. And as always, no matter what you are up to this week with your dogs, I hope you have a fantastic time. Thanks so much for listening to the Mindset Coaching for Handlers podcast with me, Julie Bacon. I am so grateful for your precious time. Check out my Dogged Planner workbook and journal available on Amazon. Just search for Dogged Planner. I also offer monthly membership that's perfect for ongoing support of your awesome goals. Check out theqcoach.com for details, or just stop by and check out all the ways you can work on your mindset. And be sure to follow me on Facebook and Instagram at theqcoach and let me know how it's going. Finally, please share, subscribe, and leave a review. This helps us podcasters tremendously. Plus, I know I get my best podcast recommendations from friends. Thanks, and have a great week with your dogs.